The future of Christian Horner is a hot topic in the world of Formula One right now, and the Brit seems to have two teams in his sights. With Aston Martin's management already bringing together former Red Bull employees and partners, such as Newey and Honda, could they also go after Horner? And, more importantly, is this the ultimate revenge that Horner could exact on Red Bull, the team that left him high and dry after 20 years of collaboration? There seems to be a big question mark when it comes to Christian Horner's presence in the sport. While many are still reeling from the news that he is no longer Red Bull's team principal, there are some who have already suggested his next move. According to sources close to the sport, there are two teams that are very interested in his services, Aston Martin and Alpine. Of course, both are on very different paths at the moment and have different missions, which makes Horner's arrival a little more complicated depending on what he chooses. But Alpine and Aston Martin will have an extraordinarily good opportunity to hire a man who has been treated questionably by Red Bull, so I don't think there's anything more dangerous than a man with a mission in a different environment. Let's go through both scenarios and see which one suits him best. As things stand today, Alpine is a team that has gained a certain advantage over Aston Martin in this regard, due to the current situation it finds itself in. Alpine desperately needs a proven leader, a man who has won championships and knows what it takes to bring a team that is stuck at the bottom of the ocean back to the surface. Let's not forget what Horner did for Red Bull in the turbo hybrid era. He rebuilt the team and signed an alliance with Honda, putting them back on the road to victory with Verstappen as their new leader. So, while the controversies surrounding him have left a deep mark on his career, I don't think they are dark enough to prevent him from getting a place on a team on the grid. We know what he's capable of, and Alpine knows it too. So in a process where he'd be more than happy to join a team in difficulty, what role would Horner seek? According to his close friend Bernie Ecclestone, there's absolutely no chance Christian would accept a team principal role from today's perspective. On the contrary, he will be looking for a position with more power. And now that there are rumors that Alpine could put part of its team up for sale, could Horner use this to his advantage? Of course, the general belief is that he does not have the financial backing on his own, so he would need a partner if he wanted to commit to this move. But if he finds one, and we know how persuasive Horner can be, then Alpine would definitely consider giving him a position with some commanding power. That way, they would be in a very good position to get back into the midfield and aim for the leaders in no time. Because regardless of the blemishes on his career, there is one thing Horner does extremely well: manage and fight for his drivers. What's more, he would now have a burden on his shoulders to prove to the entire Formula One world that he is still the same old fox who knows the roots of this sport better than the back of his hand. Delving deeper into the options Horner has at the moment and what his goal would be, Ecclestone said, "I think there's more chance of Lewis winning his 8th title than Horner becoming CEO of Alpine. I don't know how or where or if Horner wants to return to the championship. He probably doesn't want to, because the position he really wanted at Red Bull was to own part of the team. Unless he can get someone to put up the money to buy a team, I don't see it happening." And I don't blame Bernie for what he just said. Becoming CEO of a team is a very different thing, especially from Horner's current perspective. But what you do need to know is that it's highly unlikely he'll pursue that position. Just because he wants to own part of a Formula One team doesn't mean he's going to become CEO of a team. Let's not forget that Horner is also a very good friend of Briatore, who has been controversially reinstated at Alpine. If a collaboration were to happen, Flavio would play an important role in it. A very similar opinion was shared by Martin Brundle. The F1 analyst believes that Christian's experience at Red Bull is too great to ignore, and, more importantly, that it shaped his character to a point of no return. You can't just go from being CEO of one of the most successful teams in the world to a lower position. That's not how things work in this sport. Delving deeper into his personal beliefs about what Horner would be in the foreseeable future, Brundle said, Christian wanted total control over what he felt he had created at Red Bull and in the best interests of the team. in a specialized and fast-moving business. I suspect he overestimated his position, and once the support of the Hvidia family, 51% owners, disappeared from the big picture, Red Bull Austria headquarters sidelined Christian at the first opportunity. Given other events that unfolded since Bahrain last year, especially in relation to Max's father, Jos Verstappen, who wields unique power, it was game over. I'm pretty sure Christian will be back sooner rather than later, this time with some ownership and control. Be that as it may, other figures at Alpine believe that Horner's time in F1 is over, such as Pierre Gasly. He was under Horner's guidance during his days at Red Bull, but his poor run in 2019, being demoted after only 13 races, makes us wonder if Gasly would really want Horner as part of his team. Delving deeper into this, Pierre said, "I think Horner's qualities are unquestionable, because when you've had so many champions in a 20-year career, you can only respect all the success with the team and what he's done with Red Bull Racing. It's very remarkable and very impressive. He's very, very good at what he's been doing with the team. I'm sure we'll see him somewhere, because with that kind of experience and skill, I'm sure some teams will be interested in Christian." In summary, it's a very interesting situation we're entering now, but although Alpine is the favorite to sign Horner due to the situation they're in, it's not a sure thing. Let's also look at Aston Martin. They have been bringing big names to the paddock, such as Newey, Cowell, Cardile, and, most importantly, Honda. This leads us to believe that it is a team that will seek Horner's signature no matter what it takes. It feels like, no matter what happens, Lawrence will always go after the big names on the grid when they are available. However, things are much more complicated with Aston Martin when it comes to Horner's situation. Let's not forget that Newey, the former head of aerodynamics at Red Bull, is now a technical partner at Aston Martin. And if Lawrence and Adrian were to discuss a possible signing for Horner, I imagine Newey's response would be a little more negative than Lawrence would like. It just wouldn't make sense. Newey was one of the main reasons he left Red Bull in the first place, to avoid being part of the internal war and drama, and now collaborating with that same person on another team is definitely questionable. The general belief is that Horner is more likely to work with Alpine than Aston Martin, simply because of the whole saga he and Newey went through at Red Bull. Although both were directly connected, the turmoil eventually happened, and both Horner and Newey were involved in different ways. Journalists now claim that there was a time when Horner and Newey attended an Oasis concert together, which proves that the relationship between them is still strong, as Adrian is godfather to one of his children. But on the other hand, Horner was seen having lunch with Briatore in London, so it's definitely a double-edged sword because you can't predict his next move. And that's mainly due to one factor. Horner hasn't really spoken about what he wants from his team in the near future. For now, it is believed that he would like a role with more power, while some reports suggest that he could be looking for a position at the FIA. However, this was quickly denied because the reality is quite the opposite. Horner is not a man who wants to do administrative work. He is a man who wants to measure himself against other team principals and owners and prove that he can rebuild another team that is not called Red Bull. With all this in mind, what do you think is next for Horner? And, more importantly, where do you think we will see Christian after his 20 years with the Austrian team? Tell us in the comments, and once you do, be sure to click on the video that appears on your screen now.